my name is Sonia and this is video number 23 in my series The Basics of Crochet. And today we're going to learn about some fun things. We're going to learn how to read a pattern. So this will be part 1. We're going to do it in parts because it's going to take a little while, because I'm going to go step by step on how to read a pattern. And we're going to put everything together that we've been learning so far. All these different stitches, it's all going to come together by learning how to read a pattern and work a pattern. So today we're going to learn how to make a beginner's luck hat. So we're making a hat, and this is an adult size hat, and this is what I would consider the title page of a pattern. So usually, of course, there's the title of the pattern. A lot of times there's a picture of the pattern, and then it has a lot of information on here. So it's important to read the title page when you have a pattern, when you're looking at a pattern, because it's going to give you important things that you need to know to make it. So again, this is Beginner's Luck Hat, and I wrote this pattern. This is my pattern. I came up with it. I didn't steal it from anyone. It came from my brain. So you have my permission to make it. So I usually put crochet level. So I've labeled this as a beginner. And then it has a little note on the after that. Must know basic crochet stitches such as single crochet, double crochet, half double crochet, triple crochet, and slip stitch, and also how to work in the round. And we've been going over all those things in the videos, so you are all set to make this. And then I usually give a little bit more information about the pattern. So about this pattern, a hat pattern, it's made top down. So now you know it's made top down using basic crochet stitches. This will be a great pattern for the beginner crocheter. Hat is available in one size that fits most. You can go up a hook size to make it larger if you want, hoping you will have lots of luck and success making this hat. So it gave you a little bit more information. So this hat is made in one size, but if you feel you made one hat, you feel like it's a little small, you can go up a hook size. And also, as we go down, I give measurements of the hat, so if you look at the measurements, and you might decide that you need to go up a larger hook size. So again, this going down, you just want to read line by line. So if you're not a reader and you see all of these words, it can be very overwhelming. So I always encourage people, I love to read, and I like to encourage people that don't love to read, I like to help them to read. It's just a thing that I have. So I encourage people to just sometimes to get a blank piece of paper to block out some words, and that can help break it up a little bit, so you're not looking at it in all these words together. So we've read this section, so now we're on materials needed. So if we go line by line, so it talks about yarn. So this is telling you what you need to make this pattern. So it's listing worsted weight yarn. Also in parentheses, medium or number 4. So if you're shopping in a store, you can look for medium or number 4 on the label, and at least 2 contrasting colors, about 250 yards total. So it's telling you the amount that you would need. And it's telling you what the colors will be called. So colors A and B. And then there's a little note. More colors can be used if desired. So if you have a lot of little bits of colors, you can certainly use more colors. So Hat and Photos was made using 5 different colors in worsted weight yarn. So I wanted to use up some yarn. So I made this hat, and I'll show it to you right here, in 5 different colors. So you can see. So just because a pattern says use 2 colors, if you want to use more, use more. If you want to use less, use less. It's okay. But I'd like you to at least use 2 colors so that you get practice changing colors in this pattern. So this is a sample of the completed hat right here. So we're going to keep going because we went over the yarn. So we know what kind of yarn we need. So now we need to know what kind of hook we need to use. So hook, size H or 5mm hook. So I'm holding a size H hook right here. And then there's a little note, can go up a hook size for a larger hat. So if you want to make a larger hat, then just know you can go up to size I or 5.5mm. And then also listed in materials needed is a stitch marker. So you're going to need a stitch marker to make this hat. And again, I just used my handy scrap piece of yarn. It's in a contrasting color, the colors I'll be using, so I'm all set for the stitch marker. So we're going to keep going. There's more materials needed, so we're also going to need a yarn needle. And I usually like to state why you would need a yarn needle, or a tapestry needle for weaving in ends only. Some people don't like to sew in patterns, so if they would look at this pattern and see yarn needle, that might put them off from making it. So I usually like to say why you would need a yarn needle. So weaving in ends, so there's no sewing in this pattern. And then you can add a pom-pom, which is optional for that. So now we're heading down to gauge. And gauge helps you with sizing of the pattern. A lot of people panic about gauge. Don't panic about gauge. Some things I find gauge isn't really necessary. So if you're making a blanket or a scarf and your gauge isn't exact, don't freak out about it. It's okay. Just make your scarf, make your blanket. So gauge helps you with your tension. Now sometimes gauge is important. So if you're making a baby sweater or a sweater for yourself, you want to get pretty close to gauge. Now if you can't get exact, that's okay. If it's fairly close, then you're on the right track. So we have finished measurements too. So the hat band is about 9 inches across. So measuring across here is about 9 inches. And then it says measuring top to bottom, not counting the pom-pom, about 9 inches. So if there was a pom-pom at the top of this hat here, you wouldn't want to measure that. So you'd measure from top to bottom is also about 9 inches. So that gives you an idea of the size of the hat. So again, if you think, oh, that's going to be too small, you can go up a hook size. Now back to gauge. I'm going to show you how to measure gauge. Now, if you do use a larger hook, your gauge is going to be a little bit off. That's okay, because that just means that your hat's going to be bigger. So this says 10 rows and 14 stitches is about 4 inches. So what you would do to measure is you count 10 rows. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So from here to here is 10 rows. So I just have my little measuring thing. So you can see from here to here, that's about 4 inches. So if you find that, you measure 10 rows and, you're closer to 5 or a little bit less, that's all right. Now, if you're really, really like 6 inches off, then, you might want to check your tension. But just a little bit off is okay. And then it also says here, 14 stitches, about 4 inches. So all you would do is, again, you have your little measuring. So you count 14 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So there's 14 stitches, and that's about 4 inches. So that's how you measure gauge. And again, certain things, don't panic about gauge, especially if you see a blanket you really want to make and it's telling you to use bulky yarn and you only have worsted weight yarn and you really want to make it, just make it. It's okay. Just, you're going to have to adjust your hook size. Just realize that your blanket will be a little bit smaller, but it'll probably still look just as beautiful as the other one. So that's about gauge. And we're almost done with the title page. So again, we did the finished measurements, and then I like to include often is stitch abbreviations on my title page. So this has stitch abbreviations used in this pattern. So it gives the list of all the abbreviations, and all these abbreviations are in US terms. So we have BL for back loops, chain for chain, CONT for continue, DC, double crochet, and so on. So if you're in the pattern and you forget these abbreviations, you can refer back to the stitch abbreviation. Now, not all patterns have this, so don't always count on it. So if you're a beginner crocheter and the pattern is labeled advanced, chances are they might not have this on here. So don't always count on it. And then sometimes also on the title page, if there's like a new stitch, it might be listed on here. So it might say special stitches used. So you want to look at that. You want to know what stitches are used let's say a shell stitch, and they'll tell you how to work this shell stitch. So you want to look at that. So this is about the title page. So this is part 1. Part 2, we're going to go over how to actually start stitching the pattern. So stay tuned. Thank you for watching.